If you have not been growing this amazing vegetable in your backyard garden, you are totally missing out. We are on the second video of my series where I'm showcasing a vegetable that you can be growing in your backyard and giving you all the tips and tricks to grow it successfully. So for episode number 2, we're talking about peas. There's actually 4 different kinds of peas. We're going to be focusing on 3, which are cold weather peas. There's a 4th one called cow peas. That's more of a summer warm weather crop, and it really more resembles a bean than it does a pea, at least in my opinion. It's a black eye pea if you're not familiar with it. But the 3 that we're going to be focused on today is shelling, snap, and snow peas. And the main difference between these 3 is a shelling pea, you don't eat the pod. So you break the pod open and you pull out the peas. A snap pea, you eat the pod and the peas. And then a snow pea is just a tiny bit different from a snap pea, and you do eat the pod and you do eat the peas, but the peas are immature and the bean is flat. It's more like a flat bean versus a, puffed up rounded bean like a snap pea is. So first things first, let's open up our handy dandy Homegrown Florida Gardening Guide and take a look at what it tells us about peas, including when to start them. So we have a whole chapter on growing peas, including all of the 3 varieties that we talked about. And it says that snap, snow, and shelling peas from seed should be started between November and February in Florida. You might be wondering why we would start them in the dead of winter. Well, peas are actually cool weather crops and they prefer the cold weather, which isn't really happening right this minute. We dropped down into 25 degrees, so my pea bed looks a little rough this morning, but it looks like they're all going to bounce right back, which thank goodness, because I am so excited to be eating peas this season. Another thing our book tells us is the different varieties that I personally have grown in my garden here in Florida that work really well. So it's a Sugar Snap, Sugar Daddy, Sugar Prince, Tall Telephone, and the Oregon Giant Snow Pea. Those are all some of my favorite varieties, and actually in this bed is the Oregon Giant. I'm also trying out a new one. This one is a bush style. Because I moved my trellis away from this area and moved it to that side, I wanted to try a bush style pea because it wasn't something that I've actually grown before, and I really want to see how it compares to a variety that is a vining variety, as most peas are vining varieties. So now that we know when to plant them and what varieties to go for, the next thing is how to plant them. Can you put these in trays, or do you want to start them directly? Well, when it comes to peas, just like their little friend beans, they need to be started directly. I have seen folks have some success with starting them in trays, but it's really not necessary. Since we do grow them during our coldest season, they will do just fine in the ground. They'll germinate at cold temperatures. It's not a problem down here in Florida or in our other southern states. So to direct seed them, you basically want to take your fingertip up to your first knuckle and make a dent into the ground, and then you're going to place that pea into that dent and then cover it up gently. Water it in, and within about 5 to 7 days, your pea seedlings should sprout. Another thing to think about when you are direct seeding them is something called inoculant. Now, inoculant is actually a bacteria that we grow with our beans and peas that help them convert nitrogen. Without this inoculant or this bacteria, it will not be able to convert its own nutrition, and you will have to supplement with a decent amount of fertilizer, which I don't prefer. Now the cool thing is once you've grown beans or peas in an area and they've grown to full completion, that bacteria naturally occurs in the soil. And it will continue to be in that soil for about 2 or 3 years, so you don't have to use inoculant every single time you plant. Just the first time, if you're starting in a new bed, a new in-ground area, or if you're starting in a container with bagged soil that has never been inoculated before, which most of them have not. So if you're using fresh soil that's never had beans or peas planted in it, you definitely want to put down that inoculant. The problems that you're going to face without the inoculant is you'll see your pea plants sprout and they'll grow, and then you'll start to see some yellowing, some definite nutritional issues. You'll see some of the bottom leaves kind of getting crispy brown and breaking off, and then they just fail to thrive and then they die back. That is typically what happens whenever you don't use inoculant. And inoculant doesn't have to be fancy, guys. I go to Home Depot and right next to the beans and peas, there's something called Bean Booster. It's a little tiny pack that looks like a seed pack. I grabbed that one, but you can also get some on Amazon. I'll put one down in the description here if you'd rather do it that way, so that you can pick up an inoculant. And honestly, it's just really easy for me that whenever I start a new garden, I just put inoculant through my entire garden. It doesn't hurt anything to be in the ground with other plants. It's mainly designed to help your beans and peas. And that's any beans and peas. So that also includes things like sun hemp, which is a legume, or peanuts, which are also part of that bean family that need this type of bacteria in order to convert its own nitrogen. Now, the cool thing is once you've used inoculant, you shouldn't need to fertilize your plants. It is doing its job all by itself as long as that bacteria is present in the soil. Now, if you started your peas and you forgot the inoculant, it's not too late. You can put that down. But if your peas are already starting to struggle, you'll want to give them a liquid fertilizer along with the inoculant to try to help feed them until they can recover and that bacteria begins to grow for them to be able to use. Another thing to consider is your watering. You want to provide 1 inch of water each week for these guys. Well, what does 1 inch look like, right? I would say that that is a good medium rain, you know, not a light sprinkle, not a super heavy rain, but a medium rain for about 30 to 45 minutes is about 1 inch of water. If you haven't gotten any rain and you have to water, 1 inch of water usually takes the direct hose spraying on 1 square foot area for about 60 seconds. I know it sounds crazy. It's quite a bit of time. If you're using sprinklers or drip irrigation, that's usually about 15 to 20 minutes once a week. Now, in terms of full sun, you want to put these guys where you are going to get full sun, even Florida full sun. When we talk about Florida full sun, a lot of the time I'm talking about limiting the Florida full sun when we get into spring and summer, and maybe even some things with fall. But when we're in winter and we're growing these winter crops, they want full sun. And the main reason for that is our sun during the winter, it's our shortest number of daylight hours because we just passed our winter solstice in December 21st. So they are getting the smallest amount of sunlight that the sun can provide. Our sun is less intense, it's further away, it's at a different angle of the earth, so that way it actually casts more shadow. You're seeing like a lot of shadow halfway through these beds because of that. So you want to give it the best opportunity you can to have all day sun. These guys love sun. They don't like our summer sun, but they don't need to be growing in our summer sun either. So during winter, they can have full. And then the other thing we said, they must have a trellis if you're growing a vining variety, which is the more typical kind. Now, I like these flat panel trellises, but there's also a cucumber trellis that I love that I have grown them on. And I'll put that down in the description too. That one is an A-frame trellis, so you can just buy off of Amazon with some netting. It comes with it, and you can move it around so you don't have to have a permanent structure like these cattle panels. But if you did want to do a cattle panel style, flat panel or arch, either one of those would work. And I have a video that I just did where we replaced all these super easy. Well, super easy as in it doesn't take a lot of mind strength to do it, but it took a little bit of physical strength to get them in here. Then the last thing that we need to know is how to harvest peas, because there is a little bit of trick to harvesting your peas. When you're talking about shelling peas, you want those peas in the pod to swell up as much as possible so that the peas on the inside are big and mature. And the best way to do that is keep feeling the pod until it gives away no more resistance. You're going to touch it in the places where there's not peas, like on the ends, and make sure that it's nice and hard and stiff, almost like the peas have grown so full that there's no more room inside the pod and they're starting to like puff out. That is when you want to take them. If you wait much longer than that, they're going to start to turn yellow, and when you eat the peas, they're not going to be sweet, they're going to be starchy. It's pretty bad. When it comes to snap peas, you can eat them at any time from the moment that the pea forms all the way to when it starts to get puffy. Once again, that same idea as the shelling pea, that it starts to fill out, that is when it has reached its most mature size. Now I would kind of step that back a little bit from the shelling peas, because you're not necessarily looking to eat nothing but the inside peas. You want to eat the pod and the peas, so it might be good to step that back a couple days and pick it before it reaches that complete full stage. That way you're getting the best sugar content and the most that you could possibly do without accidentally going over. Now, snow peas are even easier because snow peas, once that flat pea has started and you see the tiniest bump from the inside of peas, that's when you harvest those. Those you want a flat pea. You don't want this giant puffed up pea. You want a flat pod. And then just starting to notice the peas growing inside that pod is the perfect time. So that way you maintain the flatness and the peas are extremely immature. That is the best time to harvest the snow peas. Once you've harvested them, there's a lot of different ways that you can process them. Some people like to can their peas. I'm not a fan. I particularly like to blanch them and then vacuum seal them and freeze them. If you have a freeze dryer, you can chop up your sugar snap peas or your snow peas, or use whole peas and actually freeze dry those, and they're nice, cool little snacks. Try to toss them in some sort of seasoning like everything bagel seasoning, or you can even go with something spicy, you know, like a chili pepper seasoning, and then or wasabi, right? They do wasabi peas that you could buy in the store. You can make those and freeze dried. You can also try them dehydrated. I would warn you that when dehydrating actual shelling peas, you do need to break the pea or pierce the pea in some way. Otherwise, the outer coating will keep the inside from being able to dehydrate properly. So that's just something to consider if you do want to dehydrate your peas. I hope you're absolutely loving this series. Make sure to head to my website, homegrownfloridagarden.com, to pick up this copy of your book. It's in electronic format, so it is an ebook. And if you'd like another vegetable highlighted during this video series, make sure to head down to the comments and leave me a note, and I will try to work that in through the rest of this year. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Happy gardening.